John Carlos Nieves Rodriguez, 27 years old. John started working at McDonald's at age 15 to help support his family and was recently made the manager of a check cashing store. He purchased his first home this spring so that his mother could live there too. He loved to escape to the beach, though his best friend called him a big teddy bear who was happy when everyone depended on him.
Stanley Almodovar III, 23 years old. Stanley was a pharmaceutical technician who kidded that the drug life chose me. He always loved to change his hair color and style almost as much as he loved flirting with the camera. He once proclaimed, "Yes, I wear makeup, and I'm still a man about it."
Dianca Deidre Drayton, 32. Dee Dee was an employee of the Pulse nightclub who had overcome struggles like a long-ago car accident and a more recent bout with drugs. She resumed attending church and writing poetry.
Luis Daniel Conde, 39 years old. Luis shared much with his partner in love and business, Juan Pablo Rivera Velasquez. They even went to the same Puerto Rican high school. At their salon, shy and affectionate Juan Pablo created hairstyles, while gregarious Luis touched up clients' makeup and turned up the techno music.
Juan Pablo Rivera Velasquez, 37 years old. Juan owned a hair salon together with his partner, Luis Daniel Conde. The salon had a loyal client base and occasionally offered free services to victims of domestic abuse. He and Luis were together for 16 years and died together at the club.
Javier Jorge Reyes, 40 years old. Javier loves selling the latest fashions and accessories at Gucci, and the company has arranged for his body to be sent back to Puerto Rico. He playfully reimagined his name on Facebook as Harvey George Kings, and his pregnant friend recalled how he had an uncanny knack for making her baby kick.
Shane Evan Tomlinson, 33 years old. Shane wowed crowds as the lead singer of a cover band called Frequency. He posted on Facebook about his own anxiety after another performer, Christina Grimmie of The Voice, was gunned down in Orlando the night before.
Luis Daniel Wilson Leon, 37. Danny liked to wear black and grow his sideburns long in his small town in Puerto Rico. He encountered many bullies and moved to Florida on his own. He fell in love with John Carlos Mendez Perez after they met at Perfumania, and the fragrance that started the romance was called Declaration by Cartier.
Jean Carlos Mendez Perez, 35 years old. Jean sold fragrances at a Perfumania outlet. He later saw one appreciative customer who had taken his recommendation at a club, and the two began an 8-year relationship. Jean and Danny Wilson Leon died together at Pulse.
Alejandro Barrios Martinez, 21 years old. Alejandro left his native Cuba in 2014 and was still perfecting his English. His mother was granted, through a letter to the new U.S. Embassy in Havana, a humanitarian visa to reclaim his body.
Brenda Lee Marquez McCool, 49. She was a loving mother to 11 children. She survived cancer twice. She loved salsa dancing, which she was enjoying with her gay son, Isaiah, whom she shielded from the gunfire.
Christopher Joseph Sanfelice, 24 years old. Chris was a personal banker at JP Morgan Chase, visiting Orlando from Tampa. He was an excellent dancer who taught his friends how to do the bachata.
Frankie Jimmy de Jesus Velasquez, 50 years old. Jimmy was a visual merchandiser at Forever 21, and he joked that he was older than the demographic. In his younger days, he traveled the world as a professional Jibaro dancer.
Juan Chavez Martinez, 25. Juan impressed his bosses as a housekeeping supervisor for resorts. He was one of 3 Mexican citizens who died at Pulse. They were all later honored by their homeland's government.
Gerald Arthur Wright, 31 years old. Jerry loved both cats and dogs. His own canine was called Rusty.
He had a quiet and kind personality that suited his Disney workplace, where he was assigned to a position on Main Street in the Magic Kingdom, and before that, Tomorrowland.
Antonio Brown, 29 years old. Antonio, an alumnus of Florida A&M, handled human resources at a Lowe's store. In college, he joined the ROTC program and later served a year-long tour of duty in Kuwait. In 2012, the Army awarded him the rank of captain.
Miguel Ángel Oronato, 30 years old. Miguel, who came to the United States from Mexico at age 4, was a soccer fan and a catering company manager. He leaves behind his 3 sons, who were 15, 2, and 1. He recently organized a Ferrari-themed birthday party for his youngest.
Anthony Luis Loreno Disla, 25 years old. Anthony moved from Puerto Rico 3 years ago to become a choreographer. He showed a talent for dancing by age 10 and became a master of many styles: ballroom, tango, salsa, and mambo.
KJ Morris, 37 years old. KJ worked as a bouncer at Pulse and had moved from Hawaii in April to help her mother and grandmother. She loved drag performances, college basketball, and MMA fights.
Edward Sotomayor Jr., 34 years old. Edward made it his mission to open the doors for gay Americans to travel the world, and recently coordinated the first ever gay cruise to Cuba. He had a signature accessory, his prized black top hat.
Frank Hernandez, 27 years old. Frankie managed a Calvin Klein store and lived for fashion. He was planning to go to a pride celebration in New Orleans. He liked to show off a tattoo on his forearm that read, "Love has no gender."
Akira Monet Murray, 18 years old. Akira was on vacation after her graduation from a Philadelphia Catholic high school. She was 3rd in her class. She led the Lady Spurs basketball team with more than 1,000 points and earned a full college scholarship. She was the youngest of the victims.
Joel Rayon Panayawa, 31 years old. Joel found work on construction sites and sent portions of his paycheck home to relatives in Mexico. A loyal churchgoer, he came to America because his cousins said there was a lot of crime, violence, and death where he grew up.
Jonathan Antonio Camuy Vega, 24 years old. Jonathan was an assistant producer on La Voz Kids, Telemundo's singing competition show for young viewers. He died, according to investigators, after standing between the shooter and his friend Mary, who was the mother of a newborn.
Gilmari Rodriguez Sullivan, 24 years old. Mari planned this Saturday night out with friends, a treat after she gave birth to her second son 3 months ago. She steered everyone towards a gay club to avoid the kind of violence that had recently occurred at another local club.
Geraldo Ortiz Jimenez, 25 years old. Geraldo, who liked to be called Drake, saved up for his trip from Puerto Rico to Orlando, all to see his pop idol, Selena Gomez, perform in concert the night before the shooting. He was working towards his college degree with big dreams and an optimistic outlook.
Gilberto Ramon Silva Menendez, 25 years old. Gilberto was an only child who left Puerto Rico 3 years ago. He was completing his studies in healthcare management, and the dog show community saluted him as one of our own. His favorite breed was a Saint Bernard.
Mercedes Marisol Flores, 26 years old. Mercedes moved far from her home in Queens to study literature at Valencia College. She had a love of music fostered by close family members who are DJs. She hoped to become a party planner.
Peter O. Gonzalez Cruz, 22 years old. Peter, who called himself Omi, worked for UPS and liked to draw. He was a fun magnet, so much so that his aunt said, "If Peter is not at the party, no one wants to go."
Rodolfo Ayala Ayala, 33 years old.
Rhodey handled other people's blood donations for a living and was recently promoted to platelet supervisor. He was a skilled salsa dancer and also a prankster who could rock a bow tie.
Paul Terrell Henry, 41 years old. Paul was a strong singer who could play the piano and the organ, though he never had a lesson. He worked in sales at a resort and was proud that one of his 2 daughters recently earned her high school diploma.
Javier Emmanuel Serrano, 35 years old. Javier moved from Puerto Rico 10 years ago and booked gigs as a professional salsa dancer at Walt Disney World and on large cruise ships. He had a 5-year-old son and often took side jobs for extra dollars. He recently found work at a shoe store because the hours were better for raising his boy.
Tevin Eugene Crosby, 25 years old. Tevin was a young business owner of a Michigan-based marketing company with 20 employees. He spread enthusiasm and inspired ambition among his colleagues with motivational memes and the hashtag #LoveMyTeam.
Amanda Alvear, 25 years old. Amanda shed 180 pounds with the help of surgery and exercise. She hoped to leave her job in a pharmacy once she completed her nursing degree. She documented her new look in selfies and treated herself and her nieces to new clothes.
Eddie Justice, 30 years old. Eddie worked as an accountant. He texted his mother during the attack. While waiting in the hospital, his mother described him as a young professional who lives in a sky house like the Jeffersons. She said he liked to live rich. Work Eddie. His relatives described him as a mama's boy at heart, with a smile as bright as his future.
Angel L. Candelario Padro, 28 years old. Angel had recently moved from Chicago to Orlando and found a job that he liked at a medical practice for eye doctors. He had his own mission, though, on the side, leading workout classes as a Zumba instructor.
Simon Adrian Carrillo Fernandez, 31 years old. Simon boosted the morale at the McDonald's that he managed by bringing his colleagues cakes on their birthdays. Born in Venezuela, he had just traveled to Canada with his partner, Oscar Aracena Montero. They stopped to see Niagara Falls.
Oscar Aracena Montero, 26 years old. Oscar, a business student, recently returned home from a Canadian vacation with his partner, Simon, who also died at Pulse. Last year, the two chose 3 chihuahuas to liven up the house that they bought together.
Jason Benjamin Josephat, 19 years old. Jason was studying computer science at Valencia College. He developed passions for photography, hip-hop dance, and gymnastics. And his high school classmates recalled he would playfully challenge his fellow members of the cheer squad to tumbling contests.
Leroy Valentin Fernandez, 25 years old. Roy recently moved to Orlando to care for his mother and took a job as an apartment rental agent. His co-workers recalled that he liked to blast Adele songs in the office. In his spare time, he choreographed original drag routines with many set to Beyoncé and J-Lo tracks.
Enrique Rios, 25 years old. Enrique was a faithful churchgoer, nursing student, and elder care social worker. He lived with his grandmother in Brooklyn. He could dance the bachata and the soca. He was on vacation in Orlando to celebrate a good friend's birthday.
Daryl Roman Burt II, 29 years old. Daryl administered financial aid to military students at a Jacksonville college. A former McDonald's manager, he just completed his master's degree in human resources management and was celebrating at Pulse.
Corey James Conal, 21 years old. Corey balanced his studies at Valencia College with his job at a public supermarket. He was working toward a goal, to join the fire department. After his passing, fire officials made him an honorary firefighter.
Martin Benitez Torres, 33 years old. Martin was newly enrolled as a pharmacy student in Tampa. He was in Orlando to visit his aunt and other family members. That day, he posted photos of the food that his mother in Puerto Rico had sent to Orlando for all the relatives to enjoy.
Luis Fielma, 22 years old.
Luis was working towards becoming an EMT first responder while he worked at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal Studios, Orlando. Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling tweeted how her connection to Luis touched her so deeply that she couldn't stop crying.
Omar Capo, 20 years old. Omar held jobs at Target and Starbucks while he set his sights on being a professional dancer and actor. After the shooting, his grandmother flew to be with family, and JetBlue flight attendants circulated a note of support for passengers to sign. Upon landing, each deplaning passenger offered her personal condolences, and some added long letters and cash donations.
Eric Ivan Ortiz Rivera, 36 years old. Eric held retail jobs at Toys R Us and then Ross. He did not frequent clubs like Pulse, but followed a crowd of friends who had begun the night at a housewarming party. He is survived by his husband of nearly 1 year.
Juan Ramon Guerrero, 22 years old. Juan was in his third year of college with a side job as a telemarketer and had begun a romance with Drew Leinanen. He came out to his family not long ago, and for his upcoming birthday, they were planning to go ahead with his party anyway, with his mother cooking his favorite foods.
Christopher Andrew Leinanen, 32 years old. Christopher, who went by Drew, was a mental health therapist who founded a gay-straight alliance in high school. He was a vegetarian, an EDM enthusiast, and a film buff with a massive collection of DVDs. Friends and family predicted wedding bells for Drew and his soulmate Juan, who died with him at Pulse.
It's time to stop the bleeding.
Let's show the world that love conquers hate.
Join me.
Join me. Join me and the Human Rights Campaign to demand common sense laws to protect the LGBTQ community and all Americans from hate violence.
Únete hoy a la campaña de los derechos humanos y mostremos al mundo que el amor vence al odio.
Love conquers hate.